Yes, I was born in Cameroon, Yaoundé, the capital in Africa. And then I moved to France at the age of 4 when my mother married a French citizens. I don't really remember much of my childhood in Cameroon, but I've got a few flashes, and it was quite pleasing because we were just running around, having fun and just stuff like that. We were happy. In Cameroon, I said I was very young. So when I arrived in France, my mother put me to school, which was very new to me. I couldn't speak French when I arrived. I think I did arrive around May, and then school started just in September. So once again, I couldn't speak French, but I quickly learned and adapted to the French system school. It was very good, very instructive in terms of obviously gaining the basic French, mathematics, biology, and all that. So I count my blessing to have been educated in a French European system. It was very random. Again, it was in France, and I was with my stepfather working down a football ground near Saint-Étienne, ISS. That was the club. And I was just little, and the manager there just saw me working with my stepfather and asked me, "Oh, do you fancy kicking the ball around?" And I was like, "Why not?" And I think from that day, I went back the next day, and then the next day, and so on, and here I am today. Well, like I said, it wasn't spotted. Like I was just walking near the ground, like accidentally visiting. But obviously, I knew those kids were not playing just for fun. They were actually within a club. So it felt amazing. It felt like I'm actually maybe starting to do something. Obviously, my parents were very proud because they knew exactly why we represented it. That's the dream of every African kids, to actually become a professional football player. So when I started, I knew they were very proud, but I knew for myself as well, this is something that could lead to something. I would say progress fairly easy, because first I would say physically bigger and more mature than my peers. That was a massive advantage for me in terms of graduating every year from, like I said, 6 years old. That's when I started. My physical quality kind of really helped me. But obviously when became the age of 17, where like the other kids start to be as strong as you, obviously technically you still have to show, and technically you have to be quite as good or better than them. Fortunately, I was still at that level, and this is where I got recruited. No, I got recruited by the French under 15 and 17, and from that, this is where Juventus came knocking the door asking if I wanted to move there. So obviously, I did say yes, and that was a milestone for me because I had never expected leaving France, leaving my family or whatsoever. But obviously, Juventus, when they come, you can't say no. And then obviously everyone knows after Juventus, I came to Portsmouth, which again was, I never been to England before, was a very good opportunity to discover another culture. And in England, played Portsmouth, Stoke, and I would say I've been fairly lucky in my career, and unfortunately I've encountered injury that I wish I didn't have. I would say very, very good, because I think Portsmouth fans are genuine fans, not saying that other people are not genuine, but they really love and they're committed to their club no matter how well or how bad they're doing. I think the way they're supporting Portsmouth now is a testimonial of how much committed they are. They're actually saving the club from going into extinction. But it also helped that at that time I was playing very well, scoring goals, so obviously that lifts the mood from the fan, the player, the manager. So I would say they made me feel very welcome in England and into English football. Well, after Stoke City was kind of a downhill road for me because obviously everyone knows my story, injuries, prison, and the fact that I just mentally I wasn't all up there, not as strong as I was. So I was kind of fighting to stay in the game, and every time I was stepping down division, so I went from Stoke to Carlisle League One, and then from Carlisle I went to non-league football in Havant Waterlooville. And obviously after that I've retired consequently, and it wasn't very nice, but I think that just happened in a career. Everything has to have an end at some point, and sadly it was a frustrating one. That's not the ending of my career that I would have wished. Well, I would just say is how I looked after myself in terms of not on the pitches, off the pitch. And this is why I created a little welfare management, is I believe that football players, especially foreign players, and even more so African players, have to be given as much as support as possible in terms of guidance or learning, teaching them to learn the language or the cultural differences and protection, because as we haven't got the chance to be as educated as European people, we are very naive, we are very desperate in some way, so we will take anything that comes our way. We sacrifice so much to follow the dream to become a player. So for me, what I will change is gain as much support from people that really got my best interest at heart, and by that I would have made choices that would have led me to play a longer career. Well, it's very hard, but obviously I will say in Italy, Juventus was a highlight of my life, because obviously I was playing with the like of Del Piero, Zinedine Zidane, the best player in the world, and at that time Juventus was one of the best teams in the world. So when you're 18, it's kind of a dream, and you kind of dream that, well, could be the beginning of something amazing. I could become a very, very good professional football player. So that's something I'll never forget. And I would say my second time was obviously at Portsmouth, when we got promoted from Championship to Premiership. I was playing well, regularly, fit, scoring goals. That's what every player wants, is to achieve things, and for a striker is to score goals. Yes, elite welfare management, E.W.M, is, like I said before, is to provide that support network to not only foreign player but also English player. But as I'm a foreign player myself, I've been through the challenges that future foreign player will face, and I want to use my experience to support those players to maximize their potential and as well their careers. And it's about identifying all the barriers that comes around a foreign player. Like I said before, is the language barrier, cultural differences, isolation, being far from your family, the lack of education and all that. At the moment, this is something I think is missing within game, and we are in intense discussion with our governing body, which is a PFA, and looking at how we can support those players, and as well talking to club to see as well how we can support them, because for a club it's well and good to invest £10 million on a very talented young player, but if you don't provide him that welfare support around him, there's a big chance in 1 or 2 or 3 years that it doesn't fulfill that potential, and then what happened to a player is giving up everything, his family, a career or anything else, to follow his dream. So it's very important to give them opportunity to bounce back or try to succeed. Well, being from Cameroon myself, George Weah is an icon. We all know him. He won the Golden Ball, so he's kind of like an icon for myself and for most African person. And obviously for today, Didier Drogba is the modern representation of this kind of player, just because the way he plays, the way he represents Africa as well, and is a role model for a lot of African people. That's not an easy question, but obviously being African myself, I will hope that we are going to develop to be as competitive as, for example, well, not the Premiership, but obviously leagues like Liga or French League. I really want to see the African football being respected and seen as a very major contributor within the football industry. But that's going to request a lot of work and commitment from all the governing body, maybe the FIFA, UEFA and anything like that, and as well from ourselves, from our African community, that we really need to promote and push all qualities and what we can do. But I believe there are brave people and committed people out there, like the Toure brothers. I heard they want to really promote football in Africa. We already know the work of Didier Drogba. I think it's just a case of time and commitment, but I believe if we keep doing what we're doing now, promoting our value, it will come. Well, I will say massively, and it's only increasing because clubs or agents or everyone realize the raw potential that there is in Africa in terms of player, not physically, but as well, if we give them the right support, the right training, we can grow to become top player like Didier Drogba. So I think it's very good as well because we're bringing kind of new culture, new vision of things. We are a lot more laid back. We love music. We're different. So I'm really looking forward to see more African players coming to play to France, in England, or wherever in those top leagues, and bring all quality, which is mainly physical, but as well tactical.